This is Real Oregon Lifestyle with Andrea Fay and Jen Fiddler, two licensed real estate brokers who share their love of all things Oregon.
Hey everyone, I'm Andrea Fay.
And I'm Jen Fiddler.
And welcome to Real Oregon Lifestyle. Today, we're going to be talking about some things that I think are relevant to just about everyone right now. There's a lot of people that post-COVID are really kind of checking into their situation and wondering, do I want to be living in this house, if we get another lockdown? And, the way our numbers are going in Oregon right now, it's very possible we could go that direction again. I can't predict the future, but we are getting a lot of questions about that. And people are really dreaming. Jen, have you noticed any of that in the Portland area?
Yeah, absolutely. Almost everybody I've talked to has said, oh, I wish my house had this, or the next house I buy is going to have this. I've even been thinking about that personally myself, going, if I'm going to be stuck at my home all summer, I really want a pool. And I know that's totally not practical in Oregon, but I want a pool.
I'll go to your pool. Even if we have to swim 6 feet apart, I'm okay with it.
Awesome. Come on up.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I've got clients right now that are like, you know what? Our house is way too small. We've got 2 kids and we've got a small house. And if we have to be stuck in our house again, like there's just no way. We just can't do it. And so I'm seeing a lot of that right now. People going, what do I want? And they're really, really dreaming. And people are just kind of like, if I have to do this again, I really want to be in a place where I'm in my happy place and physically in my happy place, So lots and lots of that going on right now. And it's people going, you know what? I want my property to be bigger than this. I want to be able to garden, and I want to be able to, have a bigger vegetable garden so I can grow more vegetables and not have to rely on grocery stores and things like that. Are you seeing any of that up there too?
Yeah, definitely. I've heard that from quite a few different people, and actually a lot more people that I know, friends, clients that are doing gardening. I always tell my clients at closing, I love a good before and after, even if you buy new construction. So they'll text me updates, and I love it. A lot of my clients have been sending me pictures of their gardening projects that they've been doing and the vegetables that they've been growing. And to piggyback on what you're saying too, as far as lifestyle goes, I think the importance of having a home office right now that you really like is going to come more and more into play, because people realized that they could work from home, and I think employers are going to realize that they don't need to have the large commercial overhead that they did, and commercial office space is totally expensive. So I think we'll see more of that, and the business landscape change to where people are working from home more. So I've talked to a lot of people who, just due to having kids and stuff, both of them are working from home. They're sharing either a 10 by 10 office, or one of them has their desk in their bedroom, and all kinds of different crazy scenarios.
Yep, or the computer is on the kitchen table where everyone also has to eat. So then every time you have to serve dinner, then you have to pick up that laptop and you have to move it. And having a home office would just be so much easier. I totally agree with you. I think that's going to be the direction that we go. And it probably will save a lot of money. I think the commercial side of things is probably not going to be too happy about that. But this is what these things do is, people make changes based on these circumstances. So I think home office is definitely one of them. And, I was kind of looking up some information earlier to see what the trends are. And I got an email from a local lender, Brian Martin with Mortgage Express, and he had sent this email saying that, 40% of buyers are looking for something with more space. And then there are 3 different items that they want to see in a house. One is, more space is one of them. One is inside laundry, which I think in different parts of the country that could be a definite issue. And then the other one was office space. So, um, I can totally see that. I think that people are dreaming even bigger than that too, though. Um,
Absolutely.
like I want my property to back up to some place where I can go hiking and, um, you know, live the dream and really live outside and, um, maybe get out of the city a little bit.
Yeah, I would say the people that I've talked to have a lot of people have expressed that, just being able to be on acreage, being able to be close to a lake or a stream. That's another thing I've heard quite a bit. So
Mhm.
I think there will be an appeal to going out into the country and into the suburbs if this continues.
Yeah, and I already see there's already a pretty big demand on property that has, it's any more than a quarter of an acre. There's a huge
Yeah.
demand for it. And so I think that demand is just gonna get even higher. But, I see the appeal. A lot of these properties are on well and septic, and you can essentially be self-sufficient, on properties like that and live a little bit off the grid if that's the style that you wanna live. Um, if you got solar panels, then that helps your cause even more, you know? So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, cool. Well, I'm kinda curious to hear if, as you go along in your day, if you hear of any really cool dreams that people have come up with, 'cause, I always like to hear, how people are transforming their lives, especially after all this COVID stuff. It's kinda cool to see what people are doing with it.
I think people are going to be creative, and I'm excited to see it.
Mhm.
Um, Everything changes, and I think as time goes on, it'll just be interesting to see what people do and what plans they make. And kind of back to that work at home thing too. I think that employees want flexibility in their lives, and especially if kids aren't going to be going back to school or they're doing some modified hybrid type of thing. Um, you have to have the space for that as well, and
That's
a
a good point.
dedicated
Yeah.
classroom.
Especially, I mean, we're getting, information about Nathan's girls and what they could be doing as far as going back to school, and it sounds like there's gonna be a hybrid, of options. You can still stay home and do online learning. You could do a combination of going to school part-time, but they're only allowing a couple days a week, it sounds like. So I don't know. This is, of course, these are in the early stages of things, so we'll see what actually happens. But um, and it's hard to tell with what the numbers are doing right now as far as COVID cases too. So yeah. But good point, for sure about the school part of it, because everyone's gonna be at home. You gotta have space for everybody.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
we also had another topic that we were gonna talk about today, and that is, one of our favorites, because we deal with it a lot. I think everybody deals with clutter in some way, shape, or form. I know I do. I feel like I'm constantly giving stuff to Goodwill and cleaning stuff out. And, the more you live, the more you collect. And I think a lot of people are not as good at, at the throwing away part.
Not me. I'm a minimalist. I like to throw things away. Whenever Grayson goes out of town, I throw things away that he won't notice. I do not have an emotional attachment to things and stuff. And so I'm totally fine getting rid of things. I could have my entire house packed up in probably a day to move. Maybe not even that.
That is true. You are very much a minimalist. We have, like, way more stuff in our house than I care to admit, and I feel like we've actually done a pretty good job. Nathan's a little bit more of a collector. He wants to hang on to stuff, and he does have a little bit of an emotional attachment to it, and, for me, I'm kind of done with that. I'm kind of like, "Okay, I can get rid of it, and it's not a big deal." Between the 2 of us, um, we have a lot of stuff. Like, how do we get all this? But when it comes to preparing your home for the market, that's a big deal. And, even me with my extra stuff that I probably don't need, I know the value of making sure everything's decluttered and ready for the market. Um, and what are some tips that you tell your clients when they're getting ready as far as decluttering surfaces goes?
I basically just tell them to let's start. I go room by room with them. A lot of times my clients don't need a level of staging. They already have cute stuff. They just need to kind of declutter. So we walk room to room and I tell them exactly what they need to pack up and put away. No kitchen appliances on the countertops. I don't generally want to see, like the jar of spatulas and things like that. You really want people to be able to see the surfaces. Bedrooms, I want to see bed, dresser, minimal furniture, minimal artwork. Not a lot of personal photos and family photos up. I tell people I'm not a huge proponent of taking everything personalized out of your house. Excuse me. But I'm dying.
Well, I'll rescue you. I'm in agreement with that. I mean, I think that there is some stuff that you want to leave behind because you are actually living in the house. And as far as online photos go and stuff, your home can appear to be staged and possibly vacant. So you do want to at least have some real stuff up that's personalized. Probably not family photos though. And I always tell people to take people put like the names of their kids in their bedrooms and things like that. And I always take them just for safety reasons, take those things down.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't ever even think about that kind of stuff, but that is a huge safety concern.
Well, it's because everybody's once you've posted those photos online, it's online for the world. And so if you feel comfortable with with everyone seeing your children's names and your family photos and all those things, then that's great. But it's actually not a good idea. I think that we've got some listener questions. Andy, what do we got?
Well, first, I have a producer's question.
Oh, producer question.
I'm wondering what the strangest thing is that you guys have had to ask somebody to remove from their house or one of their rooms.
Oh, I have a good one.
Ooh, go ahead.
Well, I have two. One's not appropriate for the podcast, but
I knew it.
Let's just say it's in the bedroom. I had a guy, this was several years ago, who had a giant samurai sword. And I was like, we can't have that above your fireplace. I'm sorry.
That's a pretty good one. I did go, so this is not a listing I had, but I actually went in a house one time that had a stuffed, I think it was a bobcat. No, it wouldn't have been a bobcat because it had a tail. It was some kind of stuffed cat. And it was seemed like a bobcat size, it wasn't like a huge like mountain lion, but it was still super weird because they covered it up with a sheet and then all you could see was like the tail and like the feet. And it was just like, they could have put little cut little eyes out for like a little ghost costume for it or something. But it was just kind of like, all right, guys, like, maybe find a different spot for that, put it in a closet so it's not like really obvious. But you walked into this room and it was like, whoa, like it actually was kind of startling. You're like, what the hell is that?
I feel like in that case, just leave the stuffed cat.
Right? That's what I was thinking too. Just take the sheet off of it because it's more alarming with the sheet on.
That's funny. Let's see. I'm trying to think of other weird things I've had to tell people to remove. I had a guy, again, several years ago, just use blankets as curtains. And, he was a bachelor. That was fine. It worked for him. But it doesn't look real classy. So
no, that's not my favorite either. That drives me crazy, actually, when I see that. And bachelors are not the only ones that do that. There are like normal people out there that do that too. I'm like, no, you just need to get some curtains, or I actually prefer blinds.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Going back to the question about personalized things, is the religious artwork and things like that. That's one where I kind of feel like, there is a borderline. You don't want to be untrue to yourself and your faith. And so I always say, you probably need to pick one. But I've been in some homes where they had religious artwork in every single room. And it was the problem is it's more of a distraction than anything. And so people start looking at the artwork more than they're looking at the house, and you want them to look at the house.
Yeah, I agree with that one. I think that I mean, again, you don't want to be untrue to yourself, but you also don't want to maybe potentially offend somebody. And there's all kinds of different beliefs and religions out there. You basically want your house to be sweet and just neutral.
Yep.
Always.
Yep. And that shouldn't affect what you believe most time, you know.
Yeah.
Andy, did we have any listener questions?
We sure do. As a matter of fact, you guys, I'm going to have to paraphrase this one because Carissa sent us a fantastic question that was attached to a bit of a rant. So I am going to paraphrase just a little bit here, okay?
Okay.
Her parents are elderly. They need to move out of their house and get into something smaller because they have a huge house with a huge property and a huge shop. It is stuffed to the brim with everything. And she feels that her parents want too much for pretty much everything that they have in their house, and they haven't been able to move any of it in the last year. She wants to know, now that she's convinced them that something needs to happen, a bad fall had occurred. So they're convinced that something needs to happen. But now she's saying, how do I do that? Where do I go? She's exploring options like estate sale companies and things, and would love your advice in the situation.
Yeah, I think that she's on the right track with the estate sale companies. Estate sale companies are great because they don't allow the people to be at the sale typically. And so it kind of takes some of the emotional element out of it. And for the most part, if you haven't used that item recently, or if you forgot all about it, you probably don't need it anymore. And so you might as well sell it. One of the things to think about is most people do think that their stuff is worth a lot more. When an estate sale company goes through, they're going to give you some kind of an estimate. They can never really predict what it's going to sell for, but they do the best that they can. And most of the time, though, people think their stuff is worth way more than it actually is. And, when it comes to the china that you think that you're saving for your grandkids don't want it. It's not in style for them anymore, and it's not worth anything. And if you were to sell it, anywhere, you're just not going to get good money out of it unless there's something really, really special about that particular china.
I think it comes into play a lot with older people and the older generation. My grandparents' generation, you just grew up in a time where you saved a lot of things. And I remember going over to my grandparents' house, and they would save those margarine tubs, and they would save just all kinds of stuff, because that's just what you did. You didn't waste anything. And I think it is, in general, for the most part, in the situations that I've seen, it's generally older people, and it's kind of a loss. And you have to acknowledge that it's a loss of potentially their freedom. Stuff. It's more than just about the stuff, especially if they're in a position where they have to move. And so, being empathetic to that and empathetic to what their huge life changes. The three situations I've had, what I would call hoarder situations, we're all older people who were moving into assisted living and had recently lost their rights, their abilities to drive and things like that. And it's hard. It's really, really tough. I probably about 5 years ago, I sold a house in Portland, and she had beautiful things. I wouldn't call it a hoarder situation by any means. She just had a lot of stuff, and she had lived there in the house for a long time. She traveled. She had collected a lot of things from her travels. And she was moving over to Hawaii, and she couldn't take that stuff with her and couldn't ship it. And she just was bawling one day, and I just broke down and cried with her too, because it's accumulation of everything. And I think you have to acknowledge and recognize that. And that's kind of that place that you need to come from, is really letting them know that what they're going through with that.
It's true. Yeah. I had one this last year, and the gal was not a hoarder by any means, but she did have a lot of stuff. She had a lot of antiques, and, sadly, most of the antiques and things that she had were just not popular. It wasn't popular furniture and things that people want right now. But she had collected it, She had the early stages of Alzheimer's. And so it was a little bit tough for her to go through also, add some of the elements of those, aging diseases, and it makes it even harder. The emotions seem to be higher when you add that to it too. So you're absolutely right. You just have to be empathetic to it, and put yourself in their shoes, and realize that you're right. If you had spent a lifetime of traveling and you had collected really cool things in all these countries, and you had some kind of a keepsake to show for everywhere you went, that would be really hard to let those things go. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
it
But
is
back to
possible.
I was going to say, back to the original question, it kind of goes, I mean, if you have a professional estate sale person or a professional organizer, that's another option to go. I tend to sort of employ three different routes in that situation. Get the family members, because there's usually family members involved, and get them to, take the things that they want out of the house for emotional purposes and stuff, have the estate sale. And then obviously there's always going to be some stuff that just needs to go to the dump. And there are some estate sale companies that will take everything that doesn't sell and they'll deal with it, and some that don't. But I also have a guy that he will just come and help clear things out, and he takes it to the dump, and he's very affordable. So I think it's kind of a three-pronged approach in those situations.
Yeah, and actually you're right. It kind of goes in that order. Anyone that's picking out some kind of keepsake or something from grandma needs to do that first, and then whatever's left behind is what the estate sale deals with. Because if there's still stuff that could be for grandma's granddaughter, it's confusing to the estate sale companies too. So
Yeah.
um, it is possible. It's not easy. It's not an easy task to go through that stuff. Um, so I feel for her, what she's going through. We have to deal with it, even though we're not there physically going through somebody's stuff, but we have to deal with it as well. So, any other listener questions?
Actually, a personal note, I can't tell you how much I have enjoyed doing this with you guys and how much you've already changed the things just in my life. So I'm not sure if you pulled up when you pulled up to the studio, Andrea, if you saw that my parents are actually parked on the property that the studio is on,
Hmm.
because they finished clearing out their house, got it on the market, and got it sold. And they are now free birds. They're living in a little travel trailer, and they're very excited to go and see the country in this little trailer that the pickup that my dad already had is able to pull. And I don't think I could have done that without you guys. And also,
Oh,
at my own house, I am ready. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go and pick up all the stuff tomorrow. I bought everything from Home Depot to put up the patio. We just made the decision after I talked to you a couple of weeks ago, and we just said, you know what, it's time to do it because we want it, and it's literally a weekend project. We know what we're doing, and I'm rototilling up a section in my backyard, and we're going to be putting up the patio this coming weekend.
nice.
That's all
That's
you guys.
Awesome.
awesome. See, that's another post-COVID. I want to be comfortable in the space that I live, and you want to enjoy your backyard, and you guys do a lot of barbecuing and grilling and spend a lot of time outside. So that makes perfect sense for you guys.
It
That's
does.
awesome.
It was the push that you guys gave us with the questions I had for you after show and stuff like that. But I'm glad we're finally doing it. I think it's something we've needed for a while. And you know what? I think that a lot of people, once they get into a home project, no matter how big or small, there is that moment where they realize this is something that I've needed this whole time. I'm glad I'm finally doing it.
Hmm. I think so.
That's
It's
awesome.
it's rewarding, I think.
Hmm.
It's
I
it's
was
no
going to say
different
that.
than my gate. It's my garden gate. I'm pushing Nathan to start tearing down that part of the fence because I want my gate. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
There's something so satisfying when you get done with a project like that and you can just kick back and look at what you did with a glass of wine or a beer or something and a hard day of work. I love it.
Yeah, well, and that's definitely the outdoor space is great because that's a perfect place to have a cocktail and just sit down, and especially on hot days like it is today. I don't know what the temperature was at, but it was like in the 90s. I know it was 90 yesterday. What is it up there, Jen?
I haven't checked today. It was warm. I was out and about this morning, but I've been in the office a lot today. It was already probably 81 earlier when I was out and about. So
Yeah. Well, perfect time to have an outdoor space and be able to sit there, have your cocktail, do your grilling, smoke whatever you're smoking on the smoker.
Oh, and in keeping with today's theme, it has forced me to reorganize my wood pile, and I'm now going to organize all of my barbecues and everything. So,
Oh yeah, we
there
were
you go.
talking about clutter and organization.
there you go.
Yeah. So let's thanks for bringing that back to the subject. One thing I was going to talk about that I always mention with my clients is on surfaces. People tend to go a little overboard with decor on their surfaces, and it's probably really cute decor, but it's not always necessary to have that much stuff. So I tell people no more than 3 items per surface. So if it's a coffee table, you get 3. If
That's
it's
a
an
good
end
rule of
table,
thumb.
yeah, if it's an end table, it's 3, but they better be small items.
Yeah, that's a great rule of thumb.
Yeah. I started looking up items on like pantry organization, and there's some cool ideas out there, using baskets and things like that. Um, the big thing about that is you have to take all the stuff out of your pantry, go through all the stuff that you probably aren't using that you've been keeping there forever because everybody does it. And then you have to go back and reorganize and categorize everything. That works for some people, and it works. We actually did that when we were in our first lockdown, and we got everything all nice and organized, and then it's not exactly that organized again. Nathan doesn't follow the categories very well.
Oh, geez. I'm organized, but I don't even do that. Also, I have moved a can of beets, like, I don't even know to how many houses. I'm never going to eat those things. I don't know why I can't get rid of them. But back to my previous statement, I will rescind. I don't throw away everything. There is a can of beets that survives.
You know what? I mean, out of all the things that you throw away, you can donate that can of beans. Make sure it's not expired.
I should probably do that.
Well, I think that's all we have time for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And you can find us on realoregonlifestyle.com, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And make sure you go ahead and like us on Facebook. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.